So what's going on, guys? Box here, and welcome to another video on MotoGP 21. So not long ago I did a video on what I want to see from MotoGP 21, and we covered things like career mode and online in that video. So if you have missed it, link in the description, go check it out. But on that video I received a load of comments of what you guys want to see on MotoGP 21. So I thought today let's run through some of those and see if there's any common themes, anything interesting, anything new, anything crazy, anything, you know, just anything. So I've filtered the comment section by top comments, and let's just run down a list of them and see where we get to. First comment let's look at, let's see. I just want flag to flag, and the rider can switch their team just like in F1. Also no three person in one team, just ridiculous. Now this is the top comment. I have to say this is very sensible. I didn't even think about that when I was talking about career mode in my video. When you join a factory team, or any team in fact, you become the third rider. When does that ever happen? 3 riders only happens when you have the one-off rides from the test riders or the reserve riders, that sort of thing, and they're only allowed by certain teams. So yeah, it makes the championship, especially the team championship, really unfair, because, you know, if you join a factory team, there's 3 riders getting points for the same team. It's just crazy. It needs to work like the F1 career mode, where you replace one of the riders at the team. And then also it links in nicely to what I did say in the video, which is about riders switching team. Riders need to be able to switch team now. That's just a thing. I mean, it started with FIFA, with players being able to move team, and then F1 a couple years ago, where the drivers could switch teams in the middle of F1 season, at the end of F1 seasons, between season and career mode. Now it's time for MotoGP. It just has to happen to keep it interesting. And also the point in the flag to flag races, I did touch on that in the gameplay segment of the video. So the next comment comes in from MVG, and he's actually been publicly subscribed to me for 2 years, so thank you very much for that. But he says, I suggest a MotoGP 21 in career mode and race. We can enter the pit lane for some repair or anything and then go back out on track. Now I think this is a good suggestion. Often at times you'll get a bit of end plate damage, or, you know, something like that, and to be able to come in and repair the bike, it could be beneficial. You don't really see it that often in real life MotoGP, but you do see riders come in to the pits. So to be able to come in the pits and actually have a functioning pit stop. I mean, they added pit stop in Ride 4 in the form of tyre changes and refueling. Obviously you can't refuel. Now I don't know if you can change tyres in a dry race. I know flag to flag obviously you can. You can come in the pit and change tyres, but in dry races I don't really think that's a thing. But even if we were to have the option to come into the pits, I think that would be a good idea. I do think that this would be beneficial in something like qualifying. Coming into the pits, do a quick swap of the tyres, you ride into the pits, you pre-select your tyres, they put on a new rear tyre. Obviously if it's changed to front tyres, a bit different, but they just jack it up, change the tyres, and out you go, rather than coming in, go through the menus. You know, sometimes you just want to pit for a new rear tyre or whatever, so I think that's where that could really work. So the next comment comes in from Chris Martin, who's been publicly subscribed to me for a year, so thank you very much for that. And he says that the mechanical failures and retirement from races and part management, something similar to F1 games, I think that's a good idea. They do need to implement that. You saw last year in the real life GP, Yamaha struggling with their engines, so to be able to manage that from a team perspective in a MotoGP career mode would be really cool. And to have to replace parts would be good on the bike, and to have an allocation of certain, like I say, engines, certain amount of engines. Your engine goes, you go past that limit, you get a penalty. It'll be good to see that implemented into the game. KGO3 says, I would love to see these things. More freedom in pits, manually enter pits, apply pit limiter and leave pits. More people models in pit lanes to make them alive. Dynamic weather and temperatures. More dynamic helmet cam with FOV adjustment. Moto2 class to be as well polished as MotoGP. 3D marshals with real flags and longer respawn times. Long lap penalties, yes, I agree with that one. Better brake management with weight transfer, more realistic rear brake. I think that could be something that they improve with next gen consoles. Telemetry for setups, That's getting pretty deep in terms of setups. More realism in general. Most of all, no physics, dumbing patch after release. I think that's fair enough. There's a lot there to go through, so we've already touched on the pit lane stuff. The more people in the pits make them alive, I agree with that. The MotoGP paddock pre-2020 it is alive, so to get that experience in the game would be great. On the F1 games, you see them on the grid. The grid is packed with 3D models of people and engineers and media. Something like that on MotoGP would be great. Dynamic weather, yes, I touched on that, and temperatures, we touched on that in that video. More dynamic helmet cam with FOV adjustment, again for the realism. Moto2 class to be as well polished as MotoGP. I think the same probably applies for Moto3 as well. The rider models just aren't as good. Saying that, the rider models in the MotoGP class aren't great either. Your marshals with real flags and longer respawn times. Yeah, I agree with that. The respawn times are pretty quick considering you fall off a bike. You know, it takes ages to get back on the bike, pick the bike up and off you go again. And even having to, you know, get the bike started by jumping on it, something like that. Long lap penalties, definitely they need that in there. Even in instead of getting a little time penalty after so many corner cuts, you get a long lap. That would be great. Safari and Play says more historical bikes, more historical riders, flag to flag racing, including red flag for dangerous crashes, a new mode, more historic tracks, pre and post race interviews. Yeah, some good things in there. I like the sounds of the pre and post race interviews, as well as obviously the flag to flag races. More of an emphasis on historic events. I mean, that mode it's around for the first month of the game and then it's dead. So yeah, I think I agree with that. Kevin, thank you for being publicly subscribed for over a year. And he says, great teaser, flag to flag, rider transfer, including getting wildcard for factory teams. I agree with that, we covered that off earlier. Online scoring and ranking a league, agree with that. I covered that off in my video as well about the online modes being improved. Make flag use more important. Blue flag, yes, especially black flag for online racing. Indeed, yes, we need disqualifications online. Aravin says, I hope in MotoGP 2021 they've reduced the slipstream effect. In MotoGP 20 it feels too artificial. In real life, slipstream will not act like that. Hope they improve that area. No, I agree with this one, but sometimes I feel like the slipstream isn't powerful enough. I think what you were hinting at is that the fact in the braking zones they let off all of a sudden. It feels like it's the slipstream. Well, in fact, it's how Milestone have made their AI vary in difficulty. So on easy difficulty, the AI, they'll be so quick in a straight line and they'll accelerate out of a corner really quick, but to make it easy AI, they slam the brakes on and let off the throttle really early before the braking zone. That's how they do it. So I think that's what might be creating the illusion the slipstream effect is too artificial. So I agree with that, but I don't think it's just down to the slipstream. I think it's down to the fact that that's how Milestone make the AI easier or harder in the braking zones, or how late they brake. So I think they do need to make that less artificial, because it's really unrealistic how you'll suddenly close up and overtake way before the braking zone. Like there's nothing down the straight until you get to the end, and then it's like everything and you're through. So yeah, I agree with that. So Viper says, I want to see an improvement in ragdolls. Yeah, I think with next gen consoles, their Milestone can really improve the physics, especially when it comes to crashing. So this is an interesting one. Would like to see more in-race events like engines letting go, oil on track, and need to restart, safety car cooldown lap after races, wheelies and burnouts for the fans. Yeah, this is good. I haven't really thought about that. Obviously, I've thought about, you know, realistic crashes and stuff, but mechanical failures, that's good. And also like oil on track, because that happens and it's dangerous in bike racing when there's oil on track or substance on the track, which makes it slippery. Restart, we've seen that in 2020. The race would go red flag, then it goes back to a restart. Safety car as well. Cool down laps, that would be cool, when the ability to do wheelies and burnouts. I like that. I really like that idea. Dashboard communications with the team. This is a good one, because you see that a lot in MotoGP, especially the last few years. You know, the teams, they're dishing out their orders. Are you coming in? It started to rain. Are you coming in? That would work really well with the dynamic weather, which hopefully can get added in, the flag to flag racing, that sort of thing. An intense tutorial mode. I think that is something that players really wanted for the past few years, but especially I've noticed that in the comments for MotoGP 20 when that game came out. People wanted a tutorial. Now, I was trying to get used to the physics as well, because the physics on that, it was focusing on stopping and that sort of thing. So it's controlling, braking was a big thing to focus on. this year in MotoGP 20. So yeah, I think an intense tutorial mode could work well. That'd be really good. Maybe that's something you guys want from me for MotoGP 21. Do you want me to make some tutorials on how to ride, how to get better, how to, you know, stay afloat on the bike, the racing lines, any tips and tricks, that sort of thing? Let me know down below if you want to see that. Flag to flag, and that you can be a MotoGP test rider for a team with wildcards. I want official test riders in the game like Cal Crutchlow, Dani Pedrosa and Pirro to ride with them as a usual race or time trial or as a normal rider, and eventually, like in F1, the interviews and press conferences. That would be cool. You know, I agree with that. I haven't thought about that. Test riders, of course, yeah. When you're in Moto 2, Moto 3, maybe you get a wildcard race, a chance to race for the team you've been testing for maybe, and then eventually sign a contract. That could be one way it works. Well, like you say, have Cal Crutchlow in the game and Dani Pedrosa. I mean, they could be in there as for the historic riders. Obviously Cal Crutchlow isn't really historic, I mean, but you could go back to his Tech 3 days and put that rider in. But either way, have him in the game as a test rider and be able to use him in time trial or even online racing. I think that's a good idea. So then let's round things off with the last comment, and it comes from someone who has been publicly subscribed to me for 6 years. That is crazy. 6 years, that is proper back in the day. But anyway, better crash animation and being able to walk around or run to your bike and pick it up after you crash. Also a more detailed pit animation during practice sessions if you ride to the garage or ride back out. Now you just teleport in and out of the pit lane. Yeah, I think that's right. Being able to ride out of the pit lane and ride back into your garage as well after your practice lap or your qualifying lap. I think that'll be good. Adds to the realism, just like the F1 games do. Crashing as well, being able to pick up your bike and run to it, I think that would work well. I think the best way for that to work would be like a quick time event, where you have to press X or Y or whatever within the time, and if you get it on time, you get on the bike quicker. If not, it takes you longer. Yeah, you stall. I think that would be a really good idea. That could be a way of doing it. Just adding a quick time event in, almost like a mini game in, you know. And if you get it right, you're back on the bike quickly. But if you mess it up, it takes longer, you stall, and that's your race completely over. So I think yeah, you're right. I agree with them. There's some really good ideas. So then that has been it for this video. Thank you so much for all of your comments on what you want to see from MotoGP 21. It's been really fun reading through them and seeing what you guys think. You've come up with way more things than I have, and different things as well. It's good. So this is all good. I mean, if Milestone see this, they can implement this into this game, maybe even games going forward. You know, it gives them an idea of what they want to see, what you guys want to see in the game, and maybe one day they'll get implemented. Some of them are probably a bit of a wish list thing, but others are probably quite realistic and, you know, achievable for Milestone. But yeah, really looking forward to MotoGP 21. If you want me to do another one of these videos, then let me know down below in the comments, and also drop what features you want to see in the game, and maybe I'll do another video like this. But as always, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will catch you in the next one.